77 yards. Whoa! Who is this kid?
Lester.
All right, guys, we're back with another episode of the Steve Weatherford Show. I'm here with my co-host, my spiritual son, Pierce The Big Showe. And I'm also joined by a good friend of mine, Brian McKittrick. And before we even get into anything, one thing we didn't do on our last episode is we didn't pray to start it out. We prayed to close it out, but we're going to pray to start this one out. So, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity that we have to come together with three men that love God, that are on fire for your mission. So we just pray, Holy Spirit, that you'll just take over on this podcast. You'll let our words be your words, and you'll just allow Brian to just share so generously of his past, share so generously of his experiences. And we're just praying and believing that people are going to have eyes to see, they're going to have ears to hear, and that this podcast episode will bless them in a deep, deep way. It's in your name that we pray these things. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So as you guys heard, we're sitting here with my friend, Brian McKittrick, and he's a guy that came into my life. I didn't know it, but about a year ago, but really, really got into my life about 8 months ago.
Yeah, beginning of the year, February-ish, yeah.
Yeah. So 8 or 9 months ago. So we're in November as we make this podcast right now. But Brian, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah,
he's fun.
Are you sore?
I walked like an old man, a couple of days off the marathon Sunday a little bit, but I surprisingly didn't have a whole lot of issues yesterday. Kind of, walked a little gingerly and it broke out. And today I have a little soreness on the quads, but not a whole lot. Not like I can run, and do it again right now, but I feel much, much better than I thought I would. Yeah, I really do.
Well, what we're talking about right now, so I've been coaching Brian one-on-one for probably about 6 months. And about 2 months ago, Brian and I were talking about like, what's the next level look like,
right.
And he's had a physical transformation.
Dude, those pictures, that's legit.
We're going to do this on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to flash the picture up right here. And I'll let you guys see a picture of the transformation that he's had. And that picture was probably 4 months, was it?
Between the two or 4 months ago, maybe?
No. Between the two pictures.
Oh, well, the first picture in that photo is February of 2020.
Okay, so that was probably like your worst shape, and then the next picture was like where you're at right now.
Yeah, my worst shape would have been about July or December of 19. Yeah,
you had a real dad bod, Brian.
I did.
You had you had the beer belly, and you don't even really drink that much beer.
No, I don't. Yeah, it was like from behind it looks like that's a normal guy. Then turn around, it's a big old pot, like a dude who's pregnant or something. Yeah.
So the reason that I mentioned that is about 2 months ago, we were on a coaching call, and I challenged him. I said, "Man, I think you're supposed to be a runner because you were looking for like, what's the next phase of getting leaner? What's the next phase of my business? What's the next phase of my marriage and my relationships?" And I said, I think you're supposed to run a marathon. I think you and I are supposed to start running together. And he went from sitting on that phone call pretty much like on the couch. I mean, you were exercising and your fitness is strong, but running 0.
Right.
And you went from the couch to running a 450 marathon 2 days ago.
Right. Yeah.
Dude, I can't wait to get into this too, because we both know like going from not running at all to running a marathon and just the process of that, but also like the mental limits that shatters once you do that. Right. Because you grow up hearing like, oh, the marathon, like, oh, could I ever do that? Like, people have these beliefs around a marathon.
Right.
But you just went out and in a couple months just did it.
Yeah.
And I know before like this year or before last year, you did some last year. Like you didn't run a marathon. You'd never really run at all.
No, I was not. I would not have considered myself a runner. I was a weight room guy and I was a fitness guy.
Yeah, you were really strong, but you weren't a runner.
Yeah, I could sprint and I could run, but I wasn't running anything further than like a 400-meter sprint.
Right.
So I went from doing 0 running, and I would say in the last year I've done probably 4 marathons, a 50K. I did the 5 Peaks Challenge, which is a 12-hour endurance race. I've done 29.029, which is a 36-hour endurance race. And we did an Ironman together. So we've done a lot of extremely hard endurance things over this last year. And just like we're going to get into with Brian, like man, the impact that it had on my life was so much more than just like physically being more competent to handle more stuff. But before we get into the marathon, because I know that's going to comprise, because there was so much revelation for you, and it's fresh revelation. But before we get into that, I would love to share with people how you and I connected.
Sure. You spoke last year, spring of last year at Ryan Stewman's $1 Million Mastermind. I'm in his mastermind program. So we went that. I took my son, which was really fun because I started taking him.
How old
it's
is
real
he?
cool that you.
He's 9 now. Yeah, thank you. He's 9 now. I think I started taking him to the events at 7, but I asked first. I always got permission first. Hey, is it cool if I come bring him here? Is it cool if I do this?
Yeah, because there's a fair amount of F words.
Dude,
throughout the Ryan.
There's some adult language. Yeah. Well, you got guys up there like Stewman himself or Sean Whalen. They're going to drop some bombs. Yeah. But you spoke last. Yeah. And it was
so Keith was first.
Yeah, Keith opened, which was great. Pastor Keith opened.
And had you heard him before?
Not on a speech, only on video, YouTube, Zoom. And we started watching him during the shutdown stuff of 2020. Our pastor had retired a couple years ago, so we were already kind of displaced. That was kind of felt like home for us. So it was great to see Keith in the beginning, which is what he was most excited about. Yeah.
And so he was most excited about listening to Keith.
Yeah, well, going in, yes.
Yeah,
we saw the agenda, and it's like, okay, going in, he was really excited to see Keith. I met with Vince Reed on some business there. It was really cool to get Mason to meet someone like that. And then when you closed it down, he was really just excited about it. Wow. So he wanted to meet you, and you do the meet and greets. And I got a picture with you and Mason. And then you came to our mastermind event in January.
Probably like 6 months, 8 months after that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it was like the beginning of the year. Now, I had finished a year-long training with what was my business coach, and then I became one of the coaches in the program. So November of 21, I was like, okay, I did my deal here, and it's all very business related.
Yeah.
And I remember at the beginning of the year telling a good friend of mine, I'm like, man, I'm just kind of, something's missing there. I need some other type of mentorship, some other type of coach, and it's not just business.
Right.
And then shortly after, you showed up at our event, and then you spoke at the group, and then divided people out to pray. And I don't know how many you expected to get in there.
Dude, I was nervous before. So what he's talking about. So I spoke at the $1 Million Mastermind. There's probably 600 people in that room.
Yeah.
And before giving that talk, people didn't realize this, but I had shingles the 3 weeks leading up to that, and I had lost like 20 pounds. And so before I went out there to speak, man, I was scared to death. Because I knew that I was going to give my testimony. I knew that I was going to end it with an invitation to Jesus, which you're at a secular business event.
Right.
You could get booed off the stage because the person that spoke before me was mother F this, mother F that. Sure. And I'm not hating on him or saying he's wrong, because that was me 4 years ago, right?
Okay.
So I knew that I was in the den of lions, literally. And so I went and spoke there, and that went amazing. There was just hundreds of people that threw their hand up to receive Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And Pierce, that was actually the first time that I met Pierce. Well, I didn't meet Pierce, but Pierce, that was the first time Pierce got exposed to me. And then 8 months later, I was at Ryan Stewman's, it was the Apex Executive, right?
Yeah, we have a private event once a month. Yeah.
Yeah, so like his top level people. So I had an opportunity to come in and speak. And if you bring me in to speak, just so anybody listen to this, if you want my testimony, you can bring me in to speak. But if you don't want that, don't even bother, because that's literally the only thing that I'm going to do for the next couple of years. Yeah. And that's because my mentor said, hey, listen, when you get asked to speak, the most powerful thing that you'll ever share is your testimony. Right. So I shared my testimony again. And I was actually a little bit nervous, Brian, because in my mind, it was all the people that had already heard my testimony 8 months before. So I'm like, I feel like I need to have something like more original or something. But I just felt God pressing in and say, no, like what you have is what they need. So just go give it. And so I talked for about 40 minutes. And then to get to your point, you asked, did you think anybody was going to come outside? So there was probably a
good amount of the room,
probably 110 people.
Yeah. The events are usually, plus minus 100. Yeah. Right. And I would say half the room or more outside. And I remember
50% of the room came outside to receive Jesus. And I'm like, what?
I remember seeing all the people, and because John, who this is his space, he said, hey, Brian, we're going outside. And you were looking around. I was like, Steve, why don't we do a group prayer? And you had Nate, a good friend of mine, your guy, you roll with Nate, you roll with Jared. They were there. Yeah. They prayed. And then during the meet and greet is when we kind of got in line. But the guy in front of us got saved right then and there. And I was standing behind him, and we were talking back and forth. But when I got up to meet you, and this is that kind of those things, wanting something and putting it out there and praying about it and things that come up. When I got to meet you, you said, you kind of stepped back a little bit and said, you feel very familiar to me. And that was a really kind of like that's a different thing to say to somebody.
Yeah.
Like,
You
not
don't
like,
I don't think I've ever heard you say
yeah,
that
I
to
don't
anyone.
think I've ever said that again.
yeah, it's like you might see something like where have I seen you before or something like that. But that's interesting thing to say. And I showed you a picture of Mason. So you're like, hey, bring him to the church on Sunday. This is 48 hours, would have been 48 hours later. We're doing the strike force.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I didn't realize it was like back to back like
Yeah,
that.
you did. Yeah. So I took Mason to Strike Force, and then at Strike Force, I asked you because you had mentioned doing group leading at our event, and I said you mentioned group leading. Do you do anything one on one? And you're like, hit me up on the messenger. We'll start sharing back and forth. And I think it took about 2 to 3 weeks worth of conversations because you're not somebody who's just like, oh yeah.
No, I'm not looking for one-on-one people, but if God shows them to me, I'll serve them.
Well, yeah, that's what people ask about working with you. I said you kind of have this like levels almost, if you will. It's like, there's of course your core family, but you're very protective of your time. You're 168 a week, and that's I know that you're the type of person that if you're going to let them in, it's going to be full effort from you. So fully understood that. But I also I had 3 friends of mine. I'm like, hey, would you mind like making a video? I'm talking to this guy, see if he'll work with me one-on-one. So I sent 3 friends of mine. My marketing coach is a friend of mine, and then 2 guys I roll with in my close group. Say, hey, so that way they can say, hey, this is Brian. This is who he is. Yeah. But you told me what really was the difference maker was on social media. You can see all the stuff with Mason. Yeah. Like, here's a guy bringing his kid to these major events. He's pouring into his son. He's pouring into his family.
Yeah, because I don't, like you said, man, I've gotten to the season of my life where I realize how valuable my time is. If you talk about the thing that we're going to be judged by God when we get to heaven, it's going to be our time, our talents, and our treasures. And so I'm very, very protective of that. And one of the reasons that I chose you is everywhere that you go, you always bring your son, that's what I do. And I don't want to just impact men on a deep and meaningful level, and then the buck stops with them. I don't want to help them just get successful, with their physique or their business or their marriage, and then that's it. I want it to cross pollinate, right? And so I knew whatever I invest in you is directly going into your son. And so that's a way when we say like, oh man, I want to change the world. Well, if you want to change the world, you got to get to the kids. And if you want to get to the kids, you got to get to their daddies. Right. So thanks for letting me get to you, man.
Yeah. So it was really cool. And the stuff that we've been doing was exactly kind of what I was searching for. It's like, okay, I know what to do on the business side. That's fine. And I had to, how to get a book out. I did that. How to get a podcast out. Did that. It was the other piece. More so on fitness stuff because, you do okay.
I know a thing or two.
But the faith and the family piece was when you help grow in that capacity.
Yeah.
What would you say? I'll ask this question, then I want to get into the marathon. Okay. What would you say in your faith walk has been the biggest transformation or jump that you've made through your alignment with me?
Good one.
I'd say it's a couple of things I feel much stronger in what I know and through my experiences in my walk with Christ. I think guys like yourself and then our friend Garrett and Pastor Keith and Josh, they show you what a powerful man can be within the Christian community. Yeah, right. We see all this great work in the Bible. It was a funny meme that I saw once, but like think about the biblical Christians of Paul and how brave, Peter was, and these guys, what they did in the Bible, but the Christians now,
they're so soft.
Yeah, they're soft, they're meek, and it's like, oh, you can't stand out and be an alpha type person. There's a meme I saw once, and it showed like a picture of a roaring lion. It's like it said Christians in the Bible. Then it showed a lion with like a man bun. Yeah. Christians today, right? So it's like, wait a minute. You can be a powerful person, not dominating, but a powerful person, a leader in your home and in your business and with your friends, and still be a Christian.
So I'm hearing you say in less words, my spiritual authority. Yeah. I've grown in my spiritual authority of what I feel like I have command over.
Well, and I think he probably saw you going into these different environments and like just boldly sharing your faith. Because not a lot of people do that, and operate the way you do.
True. And Brian's been such a great friend because I've had a couple opportunities to speak locally at some pretty big events. And it's been great to have Brian come in because once Holy Spirit hits the room and makes a mess of people, there's, does anybody want to receive Jesus come outside, man? And when I spoke at that Apex Entourage, you were asking, did you expect that many people to come out? Well, I was scared to death, but I did what I felt like God was calling me to do. And I said, if anybody wants to receive Jesus or you want to rededicate your life to Jesus, follow me out this way. way. So I walked off the stage, I walked out of the door, and I remember walking out of the double doors, and like you hit the door and it clicks.
Yeah.
And then I let the door close behind me, and I'm just like, I'm walking into the hallway, and I'm like, please God, let somebody else come out here. And then I hear a click.
Yeah.
And then a click, click,
Yeah.
click, 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 click. And I look around, there's 60 people out there. And I turned around and I said, hey guys, if you want a picture, that's awesome. We'll do that. But if you guys could stand over there, we'll do pictures here in a little bit. Well, I'm actually coming out here because I want to pray with people. Right. And everybody kind of looked at everybody, and then they looked at me and they're like, we're here to pray, bro. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times what happens is you get also people that already have a relationship and they come out to support somebody else.
Yeah.
Like I sat next to our other friend, and I'm standing next to him. Of course, John, he's saved. He comes out there and he's on fire about it. So you help other people. It's like, okay, it's okay to come out. When he said that, because I heard him say it to you, that was the first time he's ever prayed that prayer. I went that night. I got to get him a Bible. I got to send him something and stay in touch with this kind of thing.
That's so amazing.
Because people they're wondering what to do.
Yeah.
Like, what do I do now?
Yeah, I've got this feeling now. What do I do?
Right. Right. Well, good. All right, man. Yeah. So talk to me about this. Marathon. Okay. And before we get into the marathon, why did you say yes?
Yeah.
Why did you?
And
say
what were
yes
you thinking?
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little background on that. So I grew up playing baseball. So I've always pictured myself physically as a baseball player. So I'm 6'2", and when I was in the retail space, this is up to about 2015, I was about 190, like always standing, always walking. So no matter what I ate, nothing stayed on me because I was constantly doing
burning
something.
it up.
Yeah, I wasn't in any exercise programs or anything like that, but I just didn't. My weight would literally be steadfast. So I got into insurance full time in 2015. Now, if you've seen this on video, like, oh, that's obvious. He
wore this on purpose. This is his uniform. Like I wear Jesus' King shirts. That's his uniform.
It's like,
that's what I know you from Facebook. Your picture like that with your tie.
This is exactly what I wear. Yeah.
His Instagram picture is literally that. Yeah. That's his uniform.
So it just embrace it. I was like, change it. No, just embrace it. This is how
I love it.
During open enrollment. Yeah.
Yeah.
When it finally gets cold enough in Texas, which is usually late October, November during our open enrollment season, that's when I switched to this. Yeah. So it's like insurance agent, teacher, author. Yep. I'm all those. Yeah. That's what I look like. So, so I got into insurance full time, 2015. And then I go from walking all the time to sitting all the time. No exercise program. And then it just boom.
Dad bod, engage.
Yep. Yeah. 10 pounds a year. I gained 10 pounds a year. So I was 40, I ended up being 230 pounds. Wow. And I was always a 32-inch waist, which is what I'm back to now. I got up to 38. And when my wife had to buy me 38s, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel good. We were watching a Cowboy game. And they was introduced to players, the starting lineup, whatever. And it said Dak Prescott, 6'2", 230. And I turned to my wife, Natalie, and said, hey, I'm 6'2", 230. And she goes, you don't look anything like Dak Prescott.
Hey, Natalie, I know that you're going to listen to this. And thank you. Thank you for keeping it real with your husband. Thank you for pulling him and pushing him to be his greatest.
Well, think about that. It's like, and that hit me. It's like, this is not my vision of myself.
Yeah.
Not the vision of myself. So, and I had just turned, that was December of 19. I had just turned 40 the month before.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, this doesn't feel good. So, in 2020, in February of 2020, I did sign up for Apex and I got Ryan's book, G Code. And there's an exercise in that book where he has you visualize the perfect you perfectly. Mm-hmm. And that picture in my mind definitely did not match what was in the mirror. So that picture, that side by side, that's February, early February of 2020. I snapped that picture. And during 2020, most people were at home getting fat. I enrolled in a home workout app because all the gyms were closed and all that what was going on. So my friend Mark Zalmanoff, my trainer and now one of my best friends, he said, I'm doing this home workout out. Who wants to get it? And so I enrolled and I started working out from home. Basic equipment, like the dumbbells that are the multi-dumbbells. I had that. I had a stretch band, of course, walking, running. And by December of 2020, I got down to 190 again. So I lost 40 pounds. When other people were getting bigger, I was getting back to a weight. Right. Now from then, I was like, okay, well, who do I really want to look like? I want to be, fit, strong looking. So other athletes that are 6'2", I was like, okay, I'm not trying to get like gigantic or anything. So Bryce Harper, 6'3", 210, Des Bryant, 6'2", 220 when he was playing. It's like, that's the picture I have of myself. And so that's what I started working my way up to. So you mentioned the marathon and the running. It was after 5 Peaks that we did that. I was like, this was fun.
Will you share with people that might not know what 5 Peaks is?
Sure. So San Diego, you had a mastermind invite there. And in San Diego, there's a park, if you will, that has 5, they're not super high mountains, but probably 12 to 1,500-ish feet. And the challenge is to climb up and down all 5 in one shot.
No cars.
No cars. Yeah, it's literally a hike. Yeah. So, started at 6 a.m. And it's 17 miles up and down in 11 hours is what my Woot band showed. And I had burned somewhere around 7,700 calories that day.
In a day.
But the part that was most shocking
You
to
did
me,
really well on that, man. I was really surprised
Thanks.
how well you
Yeah.
handled that. You
Thanks.
crushed it.
yeah, Peak 3 was straight up and down. That was a bit of a
That
challenge.
was probably the toughest one.
I had Peak 4 was the
4.
one that was like long, gradual up.
Yeah, it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah. But what was great there was like, kind of people brothered up,
yeah.
if you will. It's like, okay, like somehow me, Jared, and Travis kind of grouped up. And that was a little trio. And we kind of just, when one person was having trouble, we would stay with that person and make sure they're okay. Same thing. All 3 of us kind of had a stretch where we're like, man, okay, let's just keep pressing, slow and steady. So, that was a bit of an eye opener for me, but I was already gaining weight from doing more workouts, protein, that kind of thing. So my ideal weight, if you will, was 6'2", 215. Well, I hit that, but all I did was add muscle under fat. Because I remember a couple of days after we were there, I spoke at a mastermind in Vegas for insurance agents. And I remember getting a picture of myself, and I actually shared this picture with my friends and my wife. I was filling out a shirt, like a large polo, just like filling it out. But my 32-inch pants were now tight. So it was just like, I'm eating more, I'm working out more, and the muscles are
You're
getting
getting more full, but you're still fluffy.
Right, exactly. So I probably still was a high teens, 20% body fat maybe. So it's like, okay, I'm adding muscle, but I'm just adding muscle underneath the fluff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but so when you talked about running, initially I found a half marathon. So I wasn't going to go from, okay, I can throw some weights around to let's just go run. But there was a timing issue. You had something going on. I had something going on. So that was a nice fortuitous cancellation there. Yeah. And I went into the calendar of DFW and found the Fort Worth Marathon. 10 days before my birthday, we had 2 extra months to get ready in my hometown. I was like, this is the one. This is the one to do. So.
Wow. And so how long did you have before like you made that decision to marathon?
I think it was definitely after getting back from 5 Peaks and that stretch there. So the conversation probably would have been sometime around July. So I remember starting to run a little bit and definitely in the summer. Yeah. So, but the full training program built out and the way Mark scheduled it was give or take plus a little over 2 months, maybe 75 days at best.
So what do you make up in your mind that there's a lot of people, like, here's an example, Tiki Barber.
Yeah.
Tiki Barber trained for a year for the New York City Marathon and didn't finish it. He's a professional athlete. So what do you make up in your mind as the reason that your training or your mindset or just who you are allowed you to not just finish it? Because hear me when I say this, this dude went from not being a runner at all to running a sub 5-hour marathon, which is, you're moving, dude. You're not walking, running a 450.
I think it was a couple of things. It was, well, you and I have talked about this. I don't naturally think I'm a disciplined person. Like my instinctive is I just don't think I'm the type of person that instinctively would get up, do it all the time.
That's actually the exact way that I envision you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of
you don't see yourself that way because everybody sees you that way.
Well, because you follow, like, you're so good at following a process. I feel like once you have the plan, it's like, just give me the plan and I'll follow this.
Right.
And I think we talked about that earlier today, maybe.
Earlier today, I said, dude, Brian McKittrick's like the perfect kind of guy because he just makes a decision and he's disciplined.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't let his emotions pull him off track.
Yeah.
I definitely don't have the emotional part to derail me, but what I've recognized was, okay, if I don't instinctively get jazzed or tuned up doing it, what I can substitute is a mentor or someone that I'm responsible to. So like my training, I know Mark's looking at the app,
so it's easier for you to be accountable to somebody else than it is to yourself.
Yes. I don't want to let that person down when it comes to like the money and different things with our personal life. I'm not going to I will work 24/7 before I'd let Mason not go to a private school that he goes to anymore. Or I would let, something fall apart at home and that kind of thing. That's that part there. The responsibility is a higher motivating factor than the discipline to myself. Yeah. I mean, I'm if you said, hey, do this and you'll look like Bryce Harper, I'm going to do it. But knowing that someone else can hold me accountable to it, it makes it even stronger.
One thing that you're really good at that I don't think that you realize that you are, or maybe you haven't had it worded this way, but Pierce and I were talking about a study that was done quite a few years ago, but it was a study that was done over the course of like 40 years. And what they did was they took like 1,000 kids and they gave them one marshmallow. And they said, hey, if you wait 5 minutes, I'm going to give you 2 more marshmallows. And if you wait 5 minutes after that, I'm going to give you 10 marshmallows. It could have been a variant of that, but essentially is they wanted to test the subject's ability to delay their gratification.
Right.
And that's one thing that I've noticed since being in your life for over a year now, that you are really, really, I don't want to say gifted because it's not a gift to delay your gratification, but you've become very, very vigilant in knowing what you want and then being able to pay your price to get it. And that's the thing that I say to my son every night before I put him to bed is, son, you can be anything that you want to be as long as you're willing to pay your price. Yeah. And that's what I believe that you are. Cool. You're willing to pay your price.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. The, that part there, knowing that, okay, someone's looking up to me to do it. So I think about that. And that is interesting that you said that Tiki Barber in a year didn't finish, because I wasn't not going to finish that race.
Yeah.
So it was, and I think actually the training itself was harder than the race itself. The race itself was like you gear up to do it, but I
there's so many people, there's so much excitement.
Yeah.
Like I always run faster
fun,
there. Yeah.
A bit of adrenaline. Yeah. The crowd. And then knowing that, they didn't start the race here, but Natalie and Mason
people are counting on you to see you finish.
Right. My in-laws came, you came, and then Justin, I didn't know Justin was going to be there. So it was great to run with somebody, but yeah, I thought I trained harder than the actual race itself.
That's how it should be. That's how pro athletes do it, man. Yeah. Be harder on yourself Monday through Friday. So Sunday rolls around, man. It's a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. So the training started out funny because, I think we can get this more a little bit. Another thing about why I did it, I think it hits all of the major development stuff. Faith is involved, family support with family of origin, family of choice, like you guys. Obviously the fitness impact that it makes, and then there is a financial impact that I think makes too. I'll show you. I can tell you later on what that.
Let's go into that because I'm a big proponent of like, it's way more than just the running.
Sure.
It's way more than just saying, oh yeah, I finished, I got a medal, doing a marathon.
Right.
It really does impact your whole life. So let's talk about that.
So, I definitely did not start off like in the best of environments. It was late. It was in the summer. So I'm literally running. I've ran in 100-degree heat multiple times. Definitely, I'd say most of my training was above 90 degrees. It wasn't until recently
you had the wrong shoes. Yep. You didn't have running shorts. You didn't have a fanny pack. You didn't know really how to like stretch really well in order to not get shin splints. Like when I say Brian was a rookie, Brian was a motherfucking rookie.
I had cross training shoes is what I was running until I got advice from you two on what the good stuff to get. So it felt like I was like stomping the pavement as I ran.
It's a big difference when you got the tools of the trade, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I also didn't have my nutrition really right. I would literally run like for over 2 months or about 2 months. I ran every Sunday at least 10 miles or more, 10, 12, 13, 15, 20.
He was putting in time.
Yeah.
And one thing that you were doing, and we discovered it through coaching, is like, you're like, man, I'm really tired. I'm like, okay, well, what are the changes that you've made in your nutrition since you've started running 6, 7, and 10 mile runs? And he's like, oh, I'm supposed to change it. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go.
Yeah. I ran a 15. And I had just gotten new shoes. I ran a 5K on Saturday to try the shoes out. I was like, cool, I'm feeling good. I ran a 5K in under 30 minutes, which was my goal. Every time I wanted to do a 5K in 30, 6 or 10K or 6 miles in an hour. Those are my 2 barometers, right? So I got the new shoes, feeling good. And I ran 15 the next day. And I ran, just went back to my day, watched, I didn't go to church. I watched church online, watched a Cowboy game, whatever, just did my day. But I was talking to you that Wednesday after, like, man, I just feel really bad.
I'm really tired.
Beat up. Mark's like, well, I mean, all the miles you put on, you're probably starting to wear your body out a little bit. And you asked me about food. I didn't, nothing different. But I remember seeing something somewhere like you burn those kind of calories. You can eat a burger, pizza, non-alcoholic beer. I mean, something with heavy calories, right? Yeah. So so every Sunday after that, I finished my run, hop in my car as quick as I can, and I go buy Whataburger, get a bacon cheeseburger now, sausage taquitos.
And feel good about it too,
and then have more stuff at home. And so I looked up stuff like anti-inflammatory foods, high carb foods, good carbs, not like chew a bunch of candy all day long.
Right.
Like fruits, bananas, berries is really high up there. Cherries is anti-inflammatory. So started looking that stuff up more, felt much better about my body there. But if I go down through more than just the run that it makes, let's talk about faith. I think there's a lot of faith in yourself to be able to say, I'm going to commit to this 5-hour event. The only goal I set for myself was if I can finish under 5 hours.
Yeah. And you've probably never done a workout longer than like 90 minutes in your whole life.
Right. Yeah. And I grew up playing baseball, primarily football and hockey, but I was a goalie in hockey.
And so our practices, in those sports I remember I was a high school, college and pro athlete. Mm-hmm. Even in the pros, our practices never went longer than 2 hours. So like anytime I went for a run of a marathon, this is like double or triple the amount of exercise or time that I've ever put in. And then you think something like that, what about 5 peaks when you're going for 11 hours? 11 hours. And it really up levels what you think is possible. But to your point, man, it really requires you to have a level of faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I'm faith that I'm going to start this and finish it. Because on the marathon style, you don't see the same transformation. It's so gradual. Weights, it's like, okay, I can start a 200 bench and then push to 250 or 300, whatever your goal is. And you can push it quicker, I think quicker, faster.
Sure.
And you can see, I even at my age now, 42, if I go heavy, like 2 or 3 times a week, I can feel the difference in my arms.
It's harder, right?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, it's a little more plump. It's definitely stronger. The running was different. It's more gradual and you're losing things. The biggest difference I can see physically, what people have told me, my neckline's is thinner. Mm-hmm. I can feel pinch less when I flex, but really my legs are just really trim compared to what they were before. So, it's such a gradual thing, and training itself is so mundane.
Right.
But I think that's the key is like, if you can master doing the same thing for such a long period of time, that translates into so much more stuff.
Yeah.
Bobby Castro took us, at this last $1 million mastermind, took the executives aside, and he talks about literally mastering the things that no one wants to do. Yeah. That's a billionaire.
Yeah.
So it's like you can make yourself incredibly wealthy by willing to do those things. Because, one of my training runs was 20 miles and I'm doing it in the park. The lap in the park.
By himself.
By myself.
Oh my gosh.
By myself.
How far was the loop?
It's a 1.08 mile loop.
One loop. He did it 20 times.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's something you do.
Yeah, I know.
The first time he did 100, go ahead.
I did 100 loops of 1 mile around my neighborhood.
And how old were you?
19.
19.
And then at 18,
by himself.
At 18, I did 48 loops around my college campus.
Yeah, but you're just literally doing the same.
It's mastery of the mundane.
And I, after 5 peaks, the day after we did the Wim Hof stuff. And I really, really enjoyed that. So I bought Wim Hof's book, and there's actually an active breathing thing you can do. So I started picking that up. So I'm literally for 4 hours and took 20 miles was 4 hours training, which is a little slower than I actually ran the marathon.
Yeah.
But I'm counting in 3 strides, counting in, 3 strides, counting out.
Did you listen to anything on that?
No. I don't usually listen to anything.
Dude, he's a machine, man.
Yeah. I don't usually listen to anything. I like to have the clear mind thoughts, and I'll just look around a little bit. I have sometimes, like I did my last long run before the marathon was a 10 mile. And I listened to the entire book of Isaiah in my headphones. But I usually like to just have that quiet.
So what were the things? So I'm hearing you say the hardest part was absolutely the training. Mm-hmm. But what were the things that were revealed to you to be truths that you weren't sure of before you engaged in this, kind of new goal that you have for yourself? And Was there more revelation in the training and the preparation than the Day of Atonement? Or what do you say?
Yeah, I do think the revelation and the piece that I got and tying in with the faith was that I control my body. I didn't have to, I wasn't pushing myself to, I just reminded myself, I'm not trying to race anybody. You know, there was a guy I heard some of the results in my age bracket, 40s, who ran it in 3 hours and 2 minutes. There's no way I'm outrunning that dude. I'm not going to get a first place medal. It's just about me competing with me.
Yeah.
Right. So that faith piece is I master this. And during the training, something I got from you was a kind of a run walk mix. So it got down to me for 6-minute run, 3-minute walk.
It's important for people to listen to this. Like when I encouraged him and I said, hey, you're not going to do just a half marathon. I think you can do a full marathon and let me help take some overwhelm away from you. And I told him when I do marathons, I'm walking like 30% of the time. I'll jog for 7 minutes and then I'll walk for 3 minutes and bring my heart rate down, because the ultimate goal of marathon is the ultimate goal of life, is how can we take, and I learned this from you. I think it was a quote that you heard from somebody, but to be a great endurance runner, it's about covering as much distance as you can in as little amount of time with the least amount of energy.
Right.
And so one of the ways that I've been able to save energy is I notice at about 7 minutes, because I'm doing heart rate training, I notice that my heart rate gets to a point where it's really starting to make me sweat. So every 7 minutes, I'll kick it down, and I'm not walking slow. I'm walking like a 13 or a 14-minute mile. So I'm actually like walk running. But my point is walking that way allows my heart rate to come down, allows me to settle down a little bit, and then go back. And so literally when I go and do a marathon, if I do a marathon tomorrow, I'll probably do 7:3, which means I chunk the race down. If it's going to take me 4.5 hours to finish it, I'm going to do it 10 minutes at a time. And that's one of the ways that for the people listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, I can never do a marathon. Well, you can run for 10 minutes, right? You run for 7 minutes. And one of the things that I started you out was 5-5. Like, we're going to go out and we're going to jog, and it doesn't need to be fast. Brian, we can jog at 11 minutes per mile and then for 5 minutes. And then I want you to walk quickly for 5 minutes. And we're just going to keep doing that for hours.
Yeah. It's all about efficiency. And two, the more, like, a lot of people don't like running because they don't train correctly to run marathons. Like, a lot of people think that, you know, to go out and run a marathon and to train for a marathon, on your training runs, you need to be, you know, going as hard as you can every single run, when that's exactly not what you should do.
Right.
Only like 20% of your run should be hard, you know, more speed type workouts, and 80% should be, you know, that lower heart rate, conversational pace, general ballpark from like 135 beats per minute to 150. And so Steve talking about walking and bringing his heart rate down, it's because you actually stay in a zone, a heart rate zone that actually helps you build endurance. Right. And it helps you go further and faster. So I just wanted to demystify that.
Yeah. Why don't you also
people
demystify, or maybe explain to people, because most of the people that listen to this aren't runners.
Yeah.
You're a runner, but I run. I wouldn't say that I'm a runner, but one of the things that I've learned to do through heart rate training, that's what I want you to explain. What is heart rate training, and how can people begin to train themselves in that zone 2 of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So it's really simple. And it's, everyone has a slightly different zone 2, and you can do like a heart rate test to be able to figure out the exact range for you. But for most people, it's generally between 135 and 150 beats per minute. And that's why I'm such a big fan of like a running watch or something you wear, an Apple Watch, a Garmin, something like that. So you can actually track your heart rate while you're running, because you want to actually run at a pace where you can stay within that zone. Right. And it may feel slow at first. Like I remember, you know, when I started, I was running, 11, 10 or so minute miles. And now I'm getting down my zone 2 to, 9 minute, 8:45, 8:30.
You just did a 3 hour, 40 minute.
Yeah.
A 3 hour, 40 minute marathon. And you said that you were zone 2 the entire time, which means
it was 8:25.
It was not laborious for you.
Oh no, for sure. I was totally cool the next day to, go and do some more. So yeah. Yeah. And that just comes from the consistency of running at that
Right.
And I kind of like use sort of like an analogy. It's like you're stacking chips. Like every time you run miles at that zone 2,
Right.
it's like you're building this big aerobic base for you to be able to use later on. So yeah, that's a little bit about zone 2.
Yeah.
And a great way to do that, if you're just getting started out, is implementing the walk run. So your heart rate doesn't get too high.
Yeah. I tested, so I'm tracking all my runs, and I tested different formats. I did 10-5-5, 10-5, different variations, and 6-3 just kind of landed at the most efficient one. And I can keep about somewhere between 140 and 145 the entire time. Excuse me. But by tracking, I think it's important to do, track your runs.
Yeah.
I first started going, I think I was doing almost a 13-minute mile. And even short ones like 5Ks.
Yeah.
It's like I ran 3 miles at about 13 minutes each time. And it got quicker and quicker and quicker. And before I had that kind of maybe it was a bit of a setback, because it definitely was a difference not knowing the food stuff. I was stacking miles and not properly nutritioning myself.
I can't believe you were.
Yeah. I was running.
And you probably weren't using any fuel during the 15 mile.
Oh no.
I would just get out there. I had a Camelback. That's about it.
I had water, he said.
Just get going.
What a beast, right?
Totally just not knowing.
Beast.
Yeah.
But I remember running a 15, and I was doing a 10.5 the entire time. Did 10:30 the entire time. Half marathon, my 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm like, cool, I can do a whole marathon in 10:30. But then I started realizing this, oh man, I'm wrecking myself.
Yeah.
I'm really wrecking myself this way. So I started realizing, okay, I'm gonna control a little more. The 6-3 was a good fit. And then it's like, okay, cool. I can pace myself, and I'm fine doing an 11-minute mile for the whole thing. That's what I ended up being.
Yeah, really good.
11-minute mile ended up being the time I ran the whole time. But what's interesting is I trained with the run, walk. Well, our friend Justin came. So you burnt out. We knew you were going to just like go. We're like, hey man, just go, dude.
When he says burn out, he means take off.
Yeah. I thought you were going to try to do like a 3-hour qualifying run or something.
I wasn't. I'll train for that another time.
But Justin, he's younger than me. He's not even 30 yet. So we stuck together the whole time. And what's interesting, we didn't do the run walk during the race. We just kept going. But a good clip. So I told him, I said, hey, you can hear my phone announcing the time every mile. I said, if we can keep 11 or better, we'll be at a good pace the whole way. Because I told him about the 6-3 thing. And I used a stopwatch. And the first 6 that happened, we were like so close to the beginning, and it was all right there. He's like, do you want to just kind of run for a couple of miles? I was like, sure. But we were just, talking a little bit.
So you actually didn't run the game plan that you thought you were going to run? Because
I didn't run the 6-3. Yeah. Wow. I felt much better. Well, around people, because you and I had ran 2 weeks prior.
We did a
12
miler together.
Yeah. 2 hours something. But the time went by super quick because there was somebody with me.
Yeah.
As opposed to.
That's why I roll like I roll, bro.
Yeah. It's like, we ran through the city. Yeah. So there's much more visually going on. I'm not looking at the same sign and the same swing set and the same little kid picking his nose for 24 hours.
Well, you're learning. What I'm hearing you say is I'm learning the things that I need that actually make hard stuff easier for me.
That's good.
Relationships,
rolling with somebody,
scenery. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was, and then so you and I ran 12, and the next week over I ran 10, but I ran through my city. I was saying I'm running this little city loop, cut back to the neighborhood, the park. And I ended at the park because I know the park had a track. It's like if I have any change in the miles, I can hit this track a little bit and be done. So running with Justin, we just kept the game plan. The only time we had a walk pace was
just drinking water.
Let's hydrate up. Let's take
bathroom
a gel. Yeah. So I didn't actually use the bathroom during
You didn't pee the whole time?
No. So I don't usually pee the whole time.
You're amazing.
But in the marathon, and during my whole training, all the 10 plus miles that I did, I only had to go to the bathroom once. And during the marathon, I had to. And it was a photo finish. I'm like, he's like, let's go over there. I was ready to get there.
That's the worst.
So you didn't stop to do it. You waited until the end.
No. This was in the middle.
He barely got to the bathroom.
Got to it.
Oh, bro.
Because it was coming.
You're about to squirt on you, bro.
I was like, I don't want to be that stinky guy.
Oh, man.
So, but that's the only, I was like, I told Justin, I was like, I never do that.
Oh.
And I don't usually pee either. And 5 peaks was weird. I didn't go to the bathroom the entire time, all 11 hours.
11 hours.
Yeah. Because your body's
goodness.
just kind of using it up. But for some reason, I guess they had so much Gatorade, like every Gatorade
Just
station.
for the record, in the future,
Yeah.
you should be peeing all the time, especially for like for 5 peaks. Like I think
For 11.
I probably peed like 4 or 5 times. But if you don't pee once per hour, you're not drinking enough water.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's weird. I think
Once per hour?
Well, I'm talking if you're doing 5 peaks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're trying to set yourself up. Now, granted, in the last couple hours, you're not going to need to, but
Yeah.
those first couple of hours, the first 5 hours of a 12-hour race,
Yeah.
you should be peeing every hour because you go into the race overly hydrated, so you
Yeah.
can kind of.
Well, I remember,
Makes sense.
so for the marathon, I ate a lot, all healthy stuff, but I ate a lot in the beginning. I was like, I want to have all my carb load, my diet up, my calories up. And that's the only time I had. Yeah. So it's like, of all the times to have to go to the bathroom, this is the one. So anyway, but we kept a good pace. When we hit the turnaround, so coming back the second, it was basically a 6.5 mile leg, up, back. When we hit the turnaround on the back end of the race, we had more miles that were like 12-ish minutes, like, take our sweater off now because it's hot, and we just kind of hydrated more and did the gels. But Justin's like, because he's training for a 100-miler, he says, I want to kind of open it up. Do you want to just go quicker, whatever? And I was already kind of feeling some of the fatigue in my legs. I was like, I'm going to just keep my pace I'm going, my 11 mile, but yeah, do your thing. And so he burned out about mile 20.
What did he finish in?
I want to say sub 4:30.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
He's in good shape. Justin.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny was, so I like, okay, yeah, man, do your thing. I'll be back here. Don't worry about me. And so I started, kind of doing, I had 6 miles left, and he kind of took off. I could see his little the orange of his shoes, and eventually I couldn't see him anymore. So, but I knew what the track looked like going back. So I'm like, okay, keep running to this little spot.
Yeah.
Get some water. And then the next little thing I remember.
Yeah, you remember markers.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, this is the next thing to get to, and then the next thing to get to, and the next thing to get to. It wasn't until
So
the
even
final
though
turnaround.
even though you weren't 6'3", meaning like jog for 6, walk for 4,
Yeah.
you still found a way to chunk it down, is what I'm hearing you
That's
say.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I still hit my 11 minute on the way back. It was just a nice, okay, I'm just not push myself, but stay steady.
What was that like for you personally, crossing the finish line?
Yeah.
And then also, what was that like to be able to share that with your wife, Natalie, and your son, Mason?
Yeah. I was just excited to be done when I got the finish line. I was like, cause my timer went off. It said 26 before the race was actually over.
Yeah.
And I'm
It
like,
was a long
where-
course.
I'm like, where is this? It's done by now. So I turned a corner, then another corner, then another corner. Finally, I see it. And Pierce and Justin were sitting there, and everybody's like, shit, man.
You were waiting for him at the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
That's
And then,
good.
We got a video
Yeah,
too.
Natalie and Mason were there, and I did see a video of me going how I looked when I was running, so it's kind of comical to me, but it was just cool. It's like, we hugged it out, and Mason, I can just tell, that was the biggest thing from him, is like, Dad's doing hard stuff.
Yeah,
that's the
cool.
biggest impact.
And it's also
for me.
something
the
for
example.
for
Yeah.
him at 9 years old, is you're encouraging him into, because he's very cerebral, he's very analytical,
Yeah.
he's a deep thinker,
Creative kinda
he's
guy.
very musical, he's very creative. And so one thing that doesn't come very natural for him is like physicality,
Yeah,
right? And so I've been talking with you, and one of the things that you've been focused on over these last 6 months is inspiring him, not telling him that you need to be more physically fit
Right.
or you need to be more active, but exempling to him
Right.
what it looks like. So what has that impact been like for him?
So for Father's Day, he had it was this little blank book, and he gave it to me, and the book was like, things I enjoy about my dad, or something like that. Things I'm proud about my dad, something like that. And so each one has this little question, the statement, and he gets to fill something in. And when it came to like encouragement or inspired by, he put workouts. So he's already seen me doing the gym.
Because he knows that's not easy for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I have home stuff too. I have like a home little bench thing, combo thing that we can do. And he'll walk the dog with
He
me.
admires that in you because he
Isn't-
wants that for
Yeah.
himself.
And
Yeah, I
isn't
think
it
so.
cool how he's started to realize that, even though you haven't really been doing that for that many years, right? Because you made the big decision with 2020, right?
Yeah, 2020 is when I started to lose the weight. So
Yeah.
I
So
said,
he remembers the version before,
Right. Yeah.
Because you told me he kind of giggled at your belly that you had, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I have a picture that Natalie caught me full sideways. This is in July of 20 at the beach. And I'm full sideways, and there's a globe on the shelf. It's like, and a Batman. Put the globe in front of Batman. That's what I look like.
Yeah.
And so when I was doing that side by side picture, I actually did another one in the summer when I got it to 215 or about 215. And what I did was I took that old one and I took this one, and I actually stood up and flexed as much as I could. I had Mason take the picture, and he goes, when I flex like that, he's like, whoa.
He was impressed with what you've built and how you've transformed.
Yeah, he's like, you keep doing this, and you're going to be as big as Steve. He actually said that.
That's awesome. Well, you know what you're proving to him? You're proving to him that you have the ability to make change in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So what God deals you or the situation that you're in, you don't just have to accept it. You can decide. And this is one of the reasons I love endurance sports the way that I've embraced it the way I have, is because to me, it's a contest in you exercising how much dominion you have over your flesh.
Right.
It's about faithfulness. And to me, you said faithfulness with other words. You said mastering the mundane. I feel like what God wants us to do, like when we stand before him, when we die, I believe what he wants us to do isn't very complex. Right? In order for us to live our best life according to God, I don't believe it's very complex. I actually believe it's very simple.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do. So how faithful can we be at mastering the mundane?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one reason that I've just chosen, that's my intention for doing hard things, especially like endurance things, because hard things can be over in like 45 minutes, like a hard gym workout, or like you go do the 1,000 rep challenge, the Armageddon 1,000. Yeah. That's over in an hour and 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. But man, when you do something like this, you have 5 hours to quit. Right. 5 hours to convince yourself this is stupid. 5 hours to say, dude, my toe hurts. Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's so many peaks and valleys during those challenges. Yeah. It's like you're up one moment, and then 30 minutes later you're down in the dumps. Mm-hmm. Not feeling so great. Maybe you're low on, energy, or haven't hydrated or eaten that much recently. Then you go up, and then you just got to keep going.
Or you're looking at your watch and like, it's been 26 miles. Where's the freaking finish line? Just like I heard you say.
Yeah. Well, that was the only stretch that I was just like, I was never going to quit, but the only stretch was like, okay, I wanted to actually, keep pressing and keep pushing forward there. So I probably would have finished better had Justin stayed with me a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could have done, I don't know, a 440 or something like that. I probably could have done with it, because there's something extra special also when you're running with somebody. Is like, you don't want to be the one to let the team down either.
I don't know how close you were with Justin before that race, but I feel like you guys you have a bond that can't be broken now.
Well, we talked for 3 hours. About 3.5 almost, because it took us. That was about the time.
I'm so glad you did that. I'm very interested by him.
Well, he's in insurance as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
He makes insurance look good. Yeah. He's a good looking guy. But
he's got a different uniform than you.
But we talked several, lots of different things. So we kind of got to know each other a little bit. But we ran the first 20 miles. It was about 3:30 something. Here, my timer hit 20, and it was. And that's when he's like, when we hit the turnaround, I'm gonna gas it. It's like, cool. But we had a great conversation. It was something interesting. The very next day, a friend of mine put a note in one of our Facebook groups. Hey, this guy just moved to Dallas. He wants to get involved in a life insurance firm. I was like, I know a guy. Yeah. So I messaged my friend and said, what's this guy's name and number? I'll have my friend call him. Sure enough, he did. Wow. And that could be a conversation that maybe he adds another agent based upon the day before he and I got to know each other, what his business is, what my business is. Yeah. It's very, it's like it all lines up like that. So, faith, huge thing. Family, we just mentioned that, between my own family and inspiring them. My cousin, I posted, me finishing the marathon. My cousin's like, "You're my idol, Brian."
Is that the bodybuilder cousin?
No, she's a operatic singer.
Okay.
So we've always just had a really cool bond together. She's younger than me, but she's always looked up to me for stuff.
It's amazing how many people will reach out about stuff like that that you wouldn't think, or
you don't even notice.
You didn't even know we're watching.
Yeah. Right.
But your friend circle's like, dude,
you probably noticed that a lot. In your 100%. Life recently, because you've been doing things for a long time. You did some really hard things that didn't really get a lot of attention, and so since you've come into my world and under my wing, you're getting more attention for some of the things that you're doing. Just because I'm a loudmouth, I'm going to tell people how awesome you are, and I'm going to share more about you. But my point is even without me sharing it, and just your own journey, what has it been like for you to have people acknowledge what you're doing is not just stupid anymore. Because I think for a long time, even family members were like, dude, you're stupid. This is dumb.
Yeah. It was always like this mindset of like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like, why would you ever, chart a 1 mile loop and run it 48 times for 12 hours? Like, why would you ever even think about that?
I question that as well.
No, but like, yeah, it's really incredible, and it's amazing to be not because it's like it. Sure, yeah, it makes me feel good, but at the same time, to realize it's actually impacting people.
It does.
Like, and it's inspiring people to actually want to push and want to do more. Because I think one of the big things that happened for me when I was getting into this is I saw someone who did an incredible thing. And then I was like, if they did that much, I can do at least this.
Right.
And when people stretch the boundaries so much, it's like, okay, I may not be able to do that, but I can do this,
Well, that's the reason I did the Ironman.
Yeah.
I watched Jesse Itzler. He's 52 years old. He's not a pro athlete. He's got a total dad bod. And I say that, Jesse, I honor you. I love you, but you're not an elite athlete. But when I saw Jesse say, I'm going to do an Ultraman, which is 2 Ironmans back to back.
Wow.
I said, I got no excuses.
Yeah.
God has given me every advantage athletically that I know of.
Right.
It's not just that I can build muscle, and it's not that I'm lean, and it's not just that I can run. I can do all of those things. So the fact that I have put the own limit on myself, no, I don't do Ironmans. I don't do ultra endurance stuff, because if I do that, it'll negatively impact all these other things. Says who?
Right.
Says who? And that was just the biggest myth for the longest time that I accepted as truth, is that if I go and run marathons, that I can't bench 400 pounds, or I can't be strong, or I can't be lean, that it's going to ruin my physique. And it hasn't at all. Like, I'm a little bit leaner and lighter, but I feel healthier.
Right.
So if I wanted to be huge and jacked and do marathons, I could, but I actually like walking around at about 230 pounds versus like 245. I'm leaner, I'm stronger, I'm more flexible, I sleep better. And dude, I could do podcasts all day long. My energy my intention is up through the roof.
Yeah. And this is the kind of thing that there's a lot of people can just get up and go do it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned inspiring others. So you posted this, I don't know, sometime about 9 this morning. Yeah. So I cut off a little bit because I'm reading the caption here, but you posted yourself, Steve, and Chris Peterson, our friend, did the Ironman.
Yeah.
And this guy comments, you had a great post about, the doing with other people and the endurance and your journey up. But this guy, his name is Sean Stewart. He says, I really started taking notice of the distance stuff when Weatherford started training for that Ironman, seeing guys like you. And then he mentions me, because the day before I had done the marathon.
Wow.
Seeing guys like you, Brian McKittrick, and the guys from Easier to Counting. That's another friend of mine who ran his first marathon, Cale Goodman, at 39.
Yeah, people are breaking chains, baby.
Has got me pumped up. I have my first Century Bike race this Saturday and my first marathon on December 10th. Target is to complete a half marathon in 2023.
That's incredible.
And this is not someone I know super well, but I really know, but it's like,
that's not something you needed to do. You chose to do it, and it's inspiring people.
Yeah, people will go, hey, because realistically, I mean, you see a picture of me, and it's like, okay, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it, right? If the guy who looks like Mr. Rogers is out there running a marathon,
and it's going to
or doing an Ironman next year, or whatever it is, it shifts the potential for other people. Mentioned the endurance, so this helps you from a financial standpoint. I have all the energy for stuff. Like I've literally gone to the office, and I hear people like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the day, like, man, I'm tired. You're tired. You've been looking at a computer screen, sitting down and on the phone all day. What's making you tired? Right. Well, mental work actually is very tiring. One of the most exhaustive weeks I've ever had in business was we grand opened a Best Buy in Tulsa, and I spent probably, I want to say 10 days in a row, 10 to 12 hours of interviewing people. You're using nothing but your mind, and because you're like paying attention. What are they saying? How are they talking? Inflection, and you're concentrating so much mentally that it wears you out. So running, and I'm going to keep I love the pace. I do Wednesdays a 10K, Fridays a 5K, but fast. I want to run fast. And then Sunday, 10, 12 miles. It's 21 miles a week. Right. Sounds like a lot, but you're the endurance level, and you're just I'm up and I'm going.
Yeah.
And you have more energy and alertness and focus now than you did before you were not running.
Right. And you're trim, and it makes a difference in that capacity. And
Well, I think it stretches us the way that God designed us to work, man. I mean, think about it. When God designed us, he didn't design us to be sitting behind a computer and doing this, with our neck and all that, right?
Hunched over, yeah.
He created us to like go climb over a 9-mile mountain and go kill a freaking lion or a gazelle and throw that 150 pounds of meat over our back, climb 9 miles back over that mountain and feed our kids. And that's a normal Tuesday.
Right.
But we are so far from that. So it makes sense. The closer that we get back to that physicality, the way that God created us, that we're going to function better.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
I fully agree. And it just makes, I heard Zig Ziglar talk about that once too, when he first started getting into jogging, because he was about 40 something, 45, 44
He always
years
talks
old.
about how he got a fat belly.
The fat boy, yeah, hanging off the diving board.
Yeah.
But he talked about for every hour he was jogging, gave him 3 hours of high focus productivity.
Wow.
Afterwards, right?
Yeah. He's like, I can't afford not to do it.
Yeah, it's good.
It makes that big of a difference. And your staff sees it too. If perfect strangers can see it, the people that see you every day, they're like, you know what? And they renew my gym membership. Brian, do you know any trainers that work with women?
Yeah.
Whatever.
You shift the atmosphere when you shift the atmosphere inside of you.
Totally.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're an hour in. Brian, I would just love to just kind of open the mic to you. What are the 1, 2, or 3 things that you want people to know about you, or maybe something that you want to encourage them into getting into their own kind of masogi?
Yeah.
When I say masogi, a masogi is choosing one thing to do every single year that there's maybe a 50-50 chance that you're going to fail at what it is that you're doing. So what would your encouragement be?
Pick something, and it doesn't have to be something that's super, super big. Maybe it's a half marathon for you. Maybe it's even a 5K.
Everyone's heart's different.
Everyone's heart is completely different. You're right. And it doesn't have to be, monumental. It's just whatever makes you, whatever's an accomplishment for you.
Right.
But I definitely recommend doing it. Now, this year just happenstance, we've done several. That's part of the just being the tribe that we're kind of rolling with, but pick something and work your way toward it, and get advice. I think it's been the biggest thing is advice. Having a great trainer and Mark, seeing what you guys are doing and the advice there, and be able to talk it through that way.
Yeah. Well, one thing that actually, Pierce, I haven't told you about, but we're going to do this is now that you guys have heard Brian McKittrick's story, what we're going to do, Pierce, is there's going to be 10 people that listen to this podcast. They're going to be like, I want to do exactly what Brian just did. I want to go from the couch to running a marathon in 90 days, and I'm willing to pay my price. And so if that's you and you're listening to this right now, I want you to email Pierce. Pierce's email is pierce@weatherford5.com. And Pierce is going to create a running plan for you. He's going to create a supplement plan for you. He's going to create a mobility plan for you. He's going to create Bible verses that are going to go with the workouts. He's going to create mobility for you. He's going to tell you exactly what shoes to get, what fanny pack to get, what electrolytes to use. He's going to map out everything for you. And he's going to do that for 10 people. And the reason he's going to do that for 10 people is at the end of these 90 days, when all 10 of these people are successful, Pierce is going to launch an ebook. It's going to be the first ebook that he's ever released. And it's going to be an ebook of how to go to the couch, how to go from the couch to the marathon, and do that in 90 days. So if you want to be one of the very first people ever to work with Pierce Showe on how to become a marathon man in 90 days or less, I like how that sounds, become a marathon man in 90 days or less, then I want you to email Pierce at pierce@weatherford5.com. And I'm also going to be helping him help you. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but Pierce, that's the next thing that I want you to do. That's going to be the next thing that I'm going to challenge you to get outside of your comfort zone and do, because that's my responsibility as your spiritual father, is to continue to put you in places that make you uncomfortable, but to be close enough to you that you can't fail. What are your thoughts?
Thank you about that. If you're watching from YouTube, you can see me taking notes. I'm doing what? Yep. I'm doing this. You got this. Yep.
Pierce just says yes, man.
But no, 100%. I love getting uncomfortable. And I actually thought about that for a little bit, because it's like guys like Brian, like you're running in
Case study.
like training shoes, you know, when you should be running in Hoka's or a good running shoe, because it makes a big difference.
Right.
Also, like the nutrition wise, like you should be fueling before and during at least a 10, 15-mile run.
Right.
And especially after, right, for recovery. So your energy doesn't go in tank.
Yeah, I can say that just with everything, there's a format. And when you get the format down, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's replicable.
It's the algorithm is what we're looking for. And Pierce has done a really good job because he's, just so everybody knows, Pierce has really helped me. Like I go out and I do these Ironmans, I do these 50Ks, I do all this crazy stuff, but I've got Pierce that is training with me for nearly every single workout. But also in addition to, I know my body and I know building muscle and I know all of these different things that I know, but I know what I don't know. I don't know endurance. And so he's actually been able to come into my life and teach me a lot of things. So I've been able to put, what God has given me, a physical prowess for physicality, but he's been able to marry that with the knowledge and the experience of what it actually takes to be a great endurance runner. Because in my mind, it's about like running hard. If you run hard, you'll get better at it. Whoa, slow down, Weatherford. I actually need you to be running in zone 2. And that was a big eye opener for me, is like running harder doesn't make you better. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the training comes from, pacing yourself. The guys who hit the wall, like you see that hit the wall thing, is because they have exerted themselves way too much ahead of time, and they get down to the last
don't pace
5,
themselves.
10 miles. Yeah.
That's a big thing in the marathon community, is like everyone knows or everyone's heard of the concept of hitting the wall, and it's typically about mile 18, 19, pretty much 20. And it's when your glycogen stores just deplete because you've been pushing so hard, and you basically hit a wall of energy. And you
body shuts down. I can say each time I ran the longer ones, I felt like I could have gone longer.
Because it's because those people are doing it wrong. Like how is there a wall at this mile marker if people can run, 50, 100, 200 miles? It's because you're doing something wrong.
Well, Brian, thank you for coming on the show, man. I love you very much. I'm proud of you, dude. I'm so glad that you're in my life. I know I've said this to you before off the camera, but I will never let a friend like you go ever.
I appreciate that.
I see people, and it doesn't happen very often, but when I see people not appreciate the man or the friend that you are, I'm like, bro, you're missing out, because Brian McKittrick is one of the, am I wrong?
Most faithful, giving, generous.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
I would bring you.
And you're a joy too to be around. Yeah. Like he's always smiling, and
I have zero anxiety about bringing him into the most inner circle of my life, because I know that you're there to be of value, and you're also like, you're willing to receive, but that's not why you're there, man. So I just honor you, man, for who you are, man. You're a great friend.
Thank you. This has been an awesome time being in your circle and the things that we do together. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it puts you on, you can have all those pieces. I think people miss that. There's so many people that are chasing after one thing, they get it and realize it's the wrong thing. Right. So it really is a matter of a capacity. And I think that's, how you put yourself that way, people that you bring into your circle are that way, that you want to hit it on all the pieces. Yeah. So that's good. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. What I feel like you just said, and then I'm going to have you pray us out. Winning doesn't mean you get to the top of the ladder. Right? Because I've gotten to the top of the ladder in a bunch of different areas. I got to the top of the ladder in the NFL. I got to the top of the ladder in some capacities in business. I got to the top of the ladder in fitness, only to find out that when I get to the top of the ladder, that my ladder's leaned up against the wrong building, And so really what I'm hearing you say, and I want to make sure it's very clear for other people, is ultimately I want to make sure that every man that comes into my sphere has their ladder leaned on the right building, right? If I can get you leaning on the right building and encourage you to get going, I know that you'll never be wasted. I know that you'll never lose. I know that you'll never lose heart, because what you're doing matters, and who you're doing it for matters most.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to pray us out of here?
Yeah.
You got anything else to say?
Yeah. I was just going to say, knowing the ladder, how you phrased that was really good, because it's like, you can do all these things, but if you just do them to do them, or do them for the wrong motives, then it's not going to be fulfilling. Yeah. Like you could run a marathon and, want the praise and want all that, but if you're not doing it for the right reasons, it can leave you feeling empty. Yeah. And you did it in such a way to be able to contribute, to be able to grow yourself, to be able to give more. And it's just, it's really amazing, man.
Thank you. I heard at a training once, this was an advice to a new manager group. was, if you think about things in your life, family, money, physical health, faith, whatever, imagine them being balls that you're juggling. You got to put time and effort to keep them all going.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those are glass and some of those are rubber.
Yeah.
But you have no idea which one's which.
Yeah.
That's good.
If any one of those fell, is it going to bounce or break?
Yeah.
So that's the capacity and where we're rolling is treat them all with equal importance.
Yeah.
That's good.
And faith's really important to us. So let's pray this thing out and finish this up. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this amazing day. Thank you for another opportunity just to have great conversations with great people and just keep you at the center of it, God, because we don't want our plans. We want your plans for our lives, because we know that apart from you, there's just not the fulfillment. There's achieving without, deep levels of fulfillment. So we thank you for just working in our lives to bring us all together for this time. Thank you for just guiding us in our everyday lives and just giving us the wisdom and direction on the different things that we should do and the things that are most important to you. So Lord, we thank you. We thank you for all the listeners, and we just bless them and encourage them to, share to a friend if they really found this valuable. And we just honor you in everything we do. So Lord, we thank you and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Love you, man. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me
Everybody
on.
else that joined us for the Steve Weatherford Show, I appreciate you. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, share this out, do whatever it is that you do. And we appreciate it. And we'll see you next week on the Steve Weatherford Show.